Greetings, friends and relatives. Thank you for joining us today. We're back with our Yellowbird traditional storytelling, and I'm going to greet you all in my own language today. Mitakiapi, chantewashte na pechuzapi, na tuenya kiapi mia. Just want to thank you all for joining us. I'm Lynette Tubles. I'm your host of the storytelling, and we're back. Last week we took a break because of the divisional basketball tournaments, and so we took a little bit of a break to attend those and support some of our youth that are out there. And so we're thankful to be back, and we're real excited today for our guest. And I'm your host, Lynette Tubles. I'm Oglala Lakota. I'm also Northern Cheyenne. I'm coming to you live from Lame Deer, Montana, Yellowbird Lifeways Center. And we've been doing our storytelling now for, it's been over a year. It's hard to believe. Soon as the pandemic hit, it's like we knew we needed to do something to just keep our community centered and to hear from our elders, hear from our people, and hear these stories that help us keep us connected. And so immediately we started, and the first week we did every night for 7 days, we had a storyteller. And then from there we started weekly. So we've been going strong for a whole year now, just taking a break here and there. But, you know, I think it was really successful, and because people, you know, because of all of you, because your continued support coming back every week, you know, wanting to listen to these stories. And we always talk about here at Yellowbird, we talk about intergenerational knowledge and wisdom that needs to be shared. And so we've had quite a few elders on that sharing stories, but it's important to have that next generation too. And then we have the young generation of storytellers. So it's really important. So today our guest, you know, she's not in the elder stage yet, but she carries a lot of knowledge and wisdom that were taught to her by her elders and her grandparents and, you know, the people that teach her. And so we're real honored to have Helene. And I'm just going to introduce her, and then I'm going to ask Chief Philip Whiteman, to come on and just say a prayer, open us all up with a prayer, get us, you know, in the right frame of mind, spirit-minded, so we can have an open heart, open mind, and so we can be able to listen with all of our senses, you know, with our ears, with our heart, with our eyes, with all of our senses. And one of my Lekshi, Chris Eaglehawk, he talks about that. He said, when you listen, you have to listen with all of your senses. Listen with, you know, listen with your eyes, listen with your ears, your nose, your mouth, your feeling, your fingers, everything. And so, you know, I think that's what these stories do. And when we start out with prayer, you know, it helps us to be spirit-minded. So Helene Gaddie is a member of the Oglala Lakota Nation. That's where I'm from originally. She is from the Rock, Bear Runner, Quiver, and Romero Teoshpaye. Helene currently resides in Lost Dog, South Dakota, a community in the northeast side of the Pine Ridge Reservation in South Dakota. Helene is co-founder and director of Generation Indigenous Ways, a Native nonprofit organization and an affiliate of Seventh Generation Fund for Indigenous peoples. To enhance Lakota, or the Generation Indigenous Ways has a mission to enhance Lakota culture in the lands of the 7 council fires. Programming incorporates a Lakota culture and Western sciences to bring environmental awareness and Lakota cultural sustainability to the people. And, you know, I'm honored to call Helene a relative, and I've known her for many years and just watched all the work that she does for the people. I'm really proud of her, really proud, especially this last year, just seeing their organization and everything that they did in their community as well. What we're doing here in our community, they were doing over there as well. So it's really, we're all connected. We're all connected like that. And tonight she's going to be sharing about Lakota star knowledge. And it's really important. That's an important topic. So I'm really excited to hear her share tonight. So before we get started, Helene, I'm going to ask Philip to come and to say a prayer, and then we'll turn it over to you.
Oh man, gee, how you guys doing?
Good.
Yeah, well, thanks for doing this for Yellowbird. Oh, I was just out there working with my horses, and Lynette called, and I rushed up here, and I like working with horses in the evening as it starts to get dark. They say that horses, they're holy and they're gods, and they come from a different dimension. And they say that little boys, when they're born, the father go out and of the lodge, and I guess they whip their male dog, and that male dog be crying. And I guess that it kind of kickstart the male child that's just born to that. Well, it's a 13 dimension, and they can hear things and see things that well, we can't as human. And they say that they're like 10,000 times more sensitive than human. And horses, they're even more. They're like 32 to a 33 dimensional. And that's where little girls come from. They already know stuff 3 days in advance. And then we got astrology, or star knowledge, or Milky Way. And then, well, a story, Cheyenne story. There's a place where it's dark before light, and then there's a place before sound, and then there's a place there before time, and that's where Creator created light, and our Mother, the Creator, and created spirits, and sent the spirits out from that darkness to find this place that she had given birth to. And when they went back, they told our Mother, the Creator, that they saw this beautiful place of many colors, stars, astrology, and all of that. And today, science is catching up with our indigenous people. And I'm really proud of Lynette. She started the garden project. And I think that plants, they remind us of who we are, and our stories and our horses and nature. And I just want to offer a short prayer in my language. A lot of our people, they don't know what I'm saying. Even our Cheyenne people, they don't know what I'm saying. And it's a genocide, historical trauma. It's a eradication. And I want to ask the Creator to take pity on us. And what you're going to share is important. And this storytelling, this yellowbird, and what Lynette's doing is really important. And maybe someday all our Cheyenne people be able to understand Cheyenne again. It's hidden codes in that language, and all of the stars and even rock and horses, they're supposed to understand us. And Mahayo, Chwatam, Uzashtai, who institum namat, Dacha, Nimanoans Mahenas, Dacha, Ziha me just namat, Zihutuanavitanos, Zino he just, Dacha, Zihutuanavitanos, Namat, Zumunia meshes, Namat Nakaam, Namat Nanavis, Navis, Nawuhistanas, Namat Zumunia Muhuistanos, Namat Ziha me just. The no Ziha was the mammy who does. The home with us, Namat, the Sapa, what the dome at our doors, no was inside you can have. Nihon, not the woods of my heinous. She was down in the home of heinous. Not hope and that's the one that is on us. Hey, oh, yo, ha, ya, ha, we, ha, yo, ha, yo, hey, oh, yo, ha, ya, yo, we, ha, yo, yo, hey, oh, yo, ha, ya, hey, ya, hey, ha, ya, hey, ha, ya, ya, hey, oh, yo, ha, ya, ha, hey, ha, ya, ha, ya, hey, oh, ha, ya, ya, hey, ha, ya, hey, oh, yo, ha, ya, hey, yo, hey, ya, hey, ha, ya, hey, oh, yo, ha, ya, ha, hey, ya, ya, hey, oh, yo, ha, ya, hey, ha, oh my goodness. Reaction.
Yeah.
Thank you, Philip, for that prayer and that song and helping us to get in the right frame of mind and for this important topic that Helene is going to share with us tonight. So Thank you, Helene. Thank you for joining us, and we're looking forward to your presentation tonight.
Wopila Pilamaya for that prayer. I'm really honored and humbled. Ayatu Washte. Good evening, everybody. Wanakcha Washdewi Imachiapi. Helene Gaddie Imachiapi. Shugnuni El Wati. Oglala Lakota Makoche Imataha. Good evening, everybody. My name is Pretty Flower Woman. My English name is Helene Gaddie, and I'm from the Oglala Lakota Nation, and I reside in the community called Lost Dog in the northeast side of the reservation. And I'm really thankful that like she was able to open us up with a prayer, because we always want to acknowledge our Star Nation and our ancestors when we're sharing things like this and sharing our knowledge. I work at Generations Indigenous Ways. It's a nonprofit organization in the Pine Ridge Reservation. Were founded back in 2013. I can say back in. We kind of grew a little bit, and this is what we do all the time, is we incorporate our Western sciences in with our Lakota culture to teach our young people and to rejuvenate our Lakota culture and strengthen that, and also help to bring STEM education to our 7 council fires. So this evening, I want to share Lakota star knowledge and historical geology, because they go hand in hand. And this is we're in the winter season when it's appropriate, when we do our creation stories. And we know that as creation stories, Western science is just now catching up with us, and so we really want to emphasize that, to teach our youth that that we're scientists first. We have it in us. Each and every Indigenous person, you have that connection to Unchimaka and to the universe. And so I'm going to share my screen here if I can, and open up a PowerPoint. And I have a black screen right now. Not sure what's going on. There you go. Okay. So Lakota star knowledge and historical geology go hand in hand with our Lakota creation stories. And in the winter seasons, this is what we learn, and this is how I'm not sure what's going on here, why it shares the entire screen, but I'm going to go ahead and go forth. I'm Oglala Lakota. The topic this evening is astronomy. And I would be like, if there was somebody, you can even go into the chat. What is astronomy? What is Lakota science? What is star knowledge? What do you know? How many stars are in our atmosphere? What, in our constellations? So if anybody knows that question, when it's question time, we'll answer that. How many stars do we have? And then when you see this, everybody, when you see this slide come up, I'm trying to see if we can use, my screen went black. You guys could probably see it, but I can't.
Yeah, we can see it. We can see it.
Okay. So when you see this slide, everybody get up in the morning. You'd say "He honey wash day," which is good morning. In the during the day, you'd say "Ampetu wash day." In the evening, you would say "Dayatu wash day," and in the evening, like before you go to bed, you'd say "Ha happy wash day." So when you see this slide throughout the PowerPoint, get up stand up. If we were in a big circle, we would go around and we would shake each other's hands, give pounds, you know, move around, greet somebody. And you'll see this throughout the slideshow, just because, you know, we want to move around and keep active in this era of Zoom. So a little bit about how Generations Indigenous Ways is, you know, I always like to share this in our activities and topics. In the wintertime, we correlate our Lakota culture with the Western sciences. So the things that our ancestors were, what are learning, our Lakota people are supposed to be doing, you know, pre-colonization time, that's how we carry out. So right now we're in astronomy and storytelling and learning about historical geology because it coincides with our creation stories. Before we start, this slide right here, you know, everybody screenshot it, learn it. This is a very, very important part of our history, and it has a really strong connection to our geology, as well as our star knowledge in talking about the Ocheti Shakawi. And so in this part, you know, we have our Earth. This is our Unchimaka, and you can all see that on the side. I'm not sure if you can see my screen, but or see my part, and you can see the Earth. That's Unchimaka, the big beautiful blue planet in the constellations in our solar system. Right here on this part of the Earth in the northern hemisphere is a big continent called North America. And this continent, you know, it's known as Turtle Island. There's over 550 indigenous nations that lived on here since the beginning of time. And then later on, you know, in the 1400s, there were different European Americans who came across and discovered land. And ultimately in 1776, this new country was formed, and it's known as the United States of America. All during that time, our Ocheti Shakawi, which, you know, the Seven Council Fires, the Great Tetuan Nation, we were in this area that's highlighted. And in 1851, there was a treaty that was signed in Fort Laramie called the Fort Laramie Treaty of 1851 that highlighted this entire part right here that you see yellow highlighted around that area. And when they signed that treaty, they were our headsmen. They were looking out for 7 generations ahead. Our Lakota people, anything we do, we always look at how is it going to affect the future. It's not just today, you know, through colonization, we became part of that society where we're trying to survive every single day. But we were really good planners, and we were really good observers and data collectors throughout time. And in this, in where you see this highlighted time right here, this was a treaty that was signed with this new country. In 1776, they had a constitution that, you know, in their articles and, you know, their amendments or whatever they had, it says that treaties are the supreme law of the land. So then in 1851, they signed a treaty with the sovereign nation here, our nation, and broke it or modified it. So in 1868, this became the new boundaries of the 1868 treaty. In 1887, there was gold that was found, and there was also a Dawes Act that was formed where it further fractionated our land as Lakota, Dakota, and Nakota people. In 1956, there was another big impact that happened to our people, and it's known as the Relocation Act. And I'm sharing this because this is part of our people, how, you know, we adapted through life. In science, my background is in natural science, and, you know, learning about biology and different things. We're organisms on this earth. All of us as human beings, we're organisms. We have cell tissues that make organs, that make systems, that make organisms. And as an organism, we are in populations. A human is a population. We have our trees, our buffalo, our plants, our four-legged. We're all in this ecosystem together. And throughout time, our indigenous people had to adapt to our environment faster than any species. I always say that we're the fastest adapting species. And in doing so, we adapted. In 1956, the Relocation Act came about, where our people were taken from our lands and put into rural urban areas with, not knowing anything. It was another culture shock. And, after the boarding school era and through this time, our relatives went into the cities, but they found each other. They found each other and, other natives, and that resilience was still in our genes, in our DNA. And when we came together, we still had that strength. So in 1973, there was this great event that happened, which was the Wounded Knee occupation. Leading up to that time, and this is International Women's Month, and I want to give a shout out to the Oglala Sioux Civil Rights Organization. It was an organization that was founded on the Pine Ridge Reservation in the late 1960s by our elder women who were tired of the constant oppression, the murdering, the desecration of our women, of, all of that stuff. They were tired of it. And they formed this organization and talked to our elders. And there was a great divide within our Lakota nation. Ultimately, in 1973, there was an occupation at Wounded Knee when the Oglala Sioux Civil Rights Organization and the Lakota elders brought an organization called the American Indian Movement to help them. They went to Wounded Knee, and the occupation lasted until May 8th. And what came out of this was resilience and pride and a spiritual awakening for Indigenous people across the Turtle Island, that they took that back to their nations and started to relearn their languages and cultures. And ultimately, we're products of that, generations Indigenous ways. And I'm always proud of that. And I always like to give a shout out to the Unchi who were part of that. So in 2021, here we are, we're reclaiming our ancestral rights as Lakota, Dakota, Nakota people, as Indigenous people, and we're learning our culture and learning our history to move forward. So in this, when we talk about the Tetuan Nation, as you can see, it's labeled as the Great Tetuan, or the Sioux Nation. This isn't a word it's a foreign word to Indigenous people. We are the Tetuan Nation, and we consist of the Lakota, Dakota, and Nakota people. So everybody stand up. When you see the symbol, stand up, move around, everybody, move around, move your arms. Greet whoever's in the room with you. It's evening time. Dayetu washte. Nobody's moving. Oh, we got pounds here. We might have some. Okay. So we have our dialects and our oyate in the Tetuan Nation, our Lakota, Dakota, Nakota ancestral lands. And in this, we have the dialects of our people. And one of our stories, our Lakota Constellation stories, talks about the three grandmothers who brought our dialects to us. And I just wanted to share this because it's in connection with that. In the Tetuan, we have all of the reservations in South Dakota, and then in, the Hunkpapa, Oohenumpa, Minikoju, Itazipo, Oglala, Sihasapa, and Sichangu, which are part of, the Cheyenne River, Pine Ridge, Rosebud, and Standing Rock reservations. And then we have the Midwakantua, Wakbekute, Wakbetua, Sisitua, who are the Dakota dialects, and they're over towards up kind of, I think, in North Dakota, South Dakota, and some in Minnesota. And then the Ihanktua and Ihanktuana, which are down some in the middle of South Dakota and on the southeastern part. And so they make up, when we talk about Ocheti Shakoi, it's not just, it's become really a popular term because of the Standing Rock. Whenever, the Sacred Stone Camp happened, we had Ocheti Shakoi, we learned that. It's not just the reservations in South Dakota, it's the entire Tetuan Nation, where our people are all the way up into Canada, still to this day. So I like this map. You can find it on google.com. It's reconstructed in 2015, and it's a really good animation. These are images from our sacred Black Hills in South Dakota and parts of Wyoming. And the constellations have a connection to each of our constellations, each of our sacred sites that are within the Black Hills. And so here's those right here with Orion, and you can see this big constellation called Diomni. The three grandmothers are right there in that constellation, and you can see that in the horizon, in the eastern horizon, when the sun is going down in the wintertime. You can see where Orion's belt is just perfect, and you can see the three grandmothers just really bright in the wintertime. So, and this image actually came from the book of Ron Goodman. It's called Lakota Astronomy. And what he did was he took a lot of the collaborations with elders throughout the Tetuan Nation and created this Lakota Astronomy book. And you can find it in the Oglala Lakota College bookstore, Singing Horse, different trading posts. And it has, you know, the knowledge of all the elders that were brought together to create this. And so I thought he did a really good job at, you know, putting all of these together with the medicine wheel. And what this is, later on, you'll see how it's connected, where this is kind of like a depiction or a image of our Black Hills, and how the colors are, the directions and the numbers go hand in hand with, you know, we always say 4 is a sacred number, 7 is a sacred number, and this kind of shows how those powers to be come together as one person in the middle, or as above is below. And it goes in hand with the cosmos and with star knowledge. So again, here's that circle of life, the directions and the level of concern with the Earth's surface and the value structure. Everything we do is circular as people. And sometimes, you'll find yourself, whenever you're doing your daily tasks or your yearly tasks, you'll find yourself checking them off in a circle, or I do anyway. And it makes a lot of sense whenever you ground yourself like that. So again, here's the directions, and this is just a medicine wheel, not just. This is a medicine wheel which is quilled, and when you get your hunka name, or today when our young people, that's like our Indian name, our hunka is like making of a relative. When you receive your Lakota name, you'll have that medicine wheel, or you have an accomplishment. You might be awarded a plume or a feather for your accomplishment in graduating, or doing something spectacular in your everyday, where somebody is going to honor you. They might give you a feather or a plume for a female. And this medicine wheel is like a grounding. So that young person, when they receive that, then that's how they're recognized, and through their spiritual from the Star Nation, and through that energy like that. So these are the directions, north, east, south, and west, and how that connects to the medicine wheel. And then your directions that link the values, like the cosmic concerns. Here's that circle again, and where everything is as above is below. So the way in decolonizing, we hear that word a lot. And this evening, my Champashi Monica, on another call, another meeting, she talked about decolonizing and in philanthropy. And what I see from a lot of our organizations in our community is this right here, the concerns, coming back to these sacred numbers and the totals of 7, and everything as above is below, on how we're decolonizing our programs back to our traditional indigenous ways, and following that calendar, indigenous calendar, whatever nation we might be from, in order to do that, we follow that. And so you can see it again, the cosmics above and below in our lodges. We see teepees set up throughout, they're really a romantic thing for some people to go to a campground and rent a teepee. And it's the powers be. It's just beautiful that, if you have a chance to stay in our lodges, as Lakota people or as Indigenous people, when we stay in our Indigenous homes, our lodges, that strengthens us and it strengthens our youth because it has that direction. We're not just staying in a lodge, we're making that connection to the star world, and everything above is below. So, and it comes together in the middle. And each of the, this is another teaching to be sometime down the road, that each of these poles have a meaning as well. And they're just not a lodge that, you would set up. So everybody stretch out, stand up. I should stand up too, right? And we say, Tayetu Washte, good evening. We're still in evening time. And so then we come back, and you might see this on beadwork, those the mirror, the diamonds, and then here's that celestial movement of the planets, whereas the connection to like something like the Sundance, where we go in a different direction. Our teepee poles are in a different direction too, and how they come together. And I can watch how the sun goes around, or the earth goes around the sun and the moon goes around the earth, but I still cannot figure out how, the powers to be. It still amazes me on how everything could be rotating in a certain way and then it's going around, and here we are, watching the sun go around, watching the earth go around where it looks like the sun is going around us in a certain direction. And so these are the 3 teepee poles, again, like in the slide before. They also have a correlation with those 3 grandmothers and the stars in that constellation. Whenever we're putting up the stars, different teachings might say, this would be the 3 grandmothers, the stars in Diomni. Otherwise, there's other teachings where this could be Dayatu Wichakpi, Ompo Wichakpi, and Wichakpi Owaji Naji, which is the evening star, the morning star, and the north star, the star that stands still. And it depends, on the different teachings on the stories to be that have that connection. And each Teoshpai might have a different teaching also. And we carry these things just, to share them and to pass that knowledge on to our young people. So this is how our Black Hills in the Black Hills of South Dakota. Again, I took out the original image that Ron Goodman did in his book, and to show that. And you can see it kind of I think it needs to be modified just because, we have some new digital stuff to show in, even 3D modeling and different things. But you can see the Black Hills and the directions, and how, even the Wind Cave, the emergence cave of our creation stories that come down from the Madison Formation. And inside the Black Hills, the historical geology of the Black Hills, this was like, 6.5 million years ago that the Black Hills uplifted. And all the way around the Black Hills, if you come to Rapid City, or you're coming in from a different state, you're going to go through a land formation that is like real red dirt. If it's muddy, you're going to get it on your shoes, and it's a paint. Different tribes use it for different reasons. We know it as wase, but it's made from the remains of different fossils. According to Western science, it's silica, and the fossils from the bones of and the shells of the wildlife, but the sea life. It was an inland seaway at the time, and that formed that red color in that red valley in there. We know, the story of the great race between the 4-legged and the 2-legged around the Black Hills, and each time they went around there, the Black Hills uplifted. And, you know, ultimately the magpie won the race. I gave the answer away, sorry. But the magpie won the race. And so the humans, the two-legged, became the people responsible, or I guess it was a race for respect or dominancy. And so the four-legged had to give, you know, respect the two-legged. But what also came with that was a responsibility to advocate for all those who can't speak for themselves. So the humans, the two-leggeds may won that race, you know, for dominancy, to be the ones in charge of the world. But we also have that responsibility to advocate for Mother Earth and for the animals who can't speak for themselves. And in doing that, the black hills uplifted. And you know, in historical geology, it talks, this is a laccolith volcano where it kind of upmerged a little bit, and there's places in the black hills that we know as sacred sites where those lava rocks lifted to the surface during that laccolith volcano. And so these, it's really interesting how the stories coincide with the Western historical geology part. And, you know, and it helps you understand that, you know, these are our stories, and they're not, you know, somebody might call them Lakota mythology or, you know, different things like that. But these, you know, there's Western science to prove these true facts. So it's amazing. Again, here's this picture of the Black Hills, and see that it's kind of outdated because it's still known as Devil's Tower, but this is Mato Tipila, the, you know, over here in Wyoming side. And then you have Blackout Peak right here, Peshla. And then around here, this is that racetrack that goes around the Black Hills. All through this way, at a time whenever people didn't lost their connection to our spiritual, you know, their spiritual connection to the creator and to the guidance, and things became chaotic, there was the inland seaway, and the people and the animals and all of the beings who still had that connection and respect for the creator listened to when they said, you know, this is going to happen, you need to come to higher ground. And you know, they listened, and the rest have perished in what is known as the inland seaway, which happened, you know, before the Badlands uplift. And so I'm going to see if this comes up. Does it just go to the next slide? See if I can see if everybody can see that. Maybe not. Let me see if I can share this inland seaway. Okay. So when I talk about the inland seaway, you know, it has this connection. Here's this inland. This actually happened. Some people, you know, may not. They'll joke about it, like, did you know, this could be an ocean. But picture, if you've ever watched Pirates of the Caribbean, you know, and Davy Jones is standing there on the inland seaway with his wooden leg out and his other legs in a bucket because he needs to stay on in water, and you see that tropical setting there. That's what it looked like at that time. And you know, it was the super shale. And later on, what happened, according to our culture, you know, is when that froze over, the beings that perished in that time, there's a place on the eastern side of the state that is known as Pipestone. And you know, that happened in the glacier times. So this is actual historical evidence that the inland seaway existed, and further correlates to that story of the flood in our creation stories, and correlates to that Black Hills uplift in the Rocky Mountains. And I think, you know, when I think about it, I always think about how we have to respect our teachings and our Lakota culture, and things that are told to us, because, you know, there is no coincidences. It's just, you know, something like that. So this this map right here is found in the Lakota Astronomy book. You can find it. I always refer to it because, you know, we use it a lot in different teachings and stuff, and I think they use it in different college classes across universities and colleges. But this will show you where the sacred sites are in the Black Hills, and through the different minerals that came out, you know, we have 3 different types of rocks. We have the, you know, the igneous, metamorphic, and we have sandstone or sedimentary rocks. In the Black Hills, we have a lot of the metamorphic, or, you know, and we have some igneous rocks, and they have like that energy. And I always like to tell about, you know, the energy of the Black Hills, how it is. But, you know, there's a place called the Teton National Park in Yellowstone, and there they have different kinds of minerals there, and their stories and teachings with the indigenous people in that area about, you know, whenever you're taking rocks, anything we do as indigenous people, we have to ask permission. So, and give offerings. And we learned one time, you know, we went with the youth group and we went to Yellowstone, and there was just, you know, different things like, you can't take these, and I can't remember, it was obsidian, and I couldn't believe how sharp it was, because one of our mentors stood up against the side of it, and they told us to be careful, and it cut through her pants, like on her thigh. And I was like, this would make a cool you know, an arrow. And I took one, and they said, you know, when people take things like this, and another one of our staff, you know, are like, well, I want to check it out, I want to see if it works, and we can make an arrow out of it. And we just took a little piece. But when we got back to the Teton Science Schools, we couldn't find it anywhere. And so I really truly believe that it's because we didn't do it in a proper way, and we learned from that. And it's the same as, you know, taking things from the Black Hills. When we don't do it in a proper way, you know, it has a bad outcome. And in the Black Hills, you know, a lot of the reason why we were misplaced and displaced as Lakota people was because of the strong minerals in the Black Hills, and the metals and gold. And up here, you know, right north of Peshla, coming down between Bear Butte, there's a place here that, you know, you can see this big rotten hole in the middle of the earth. And it's so devastating to see that, you know, the European Americans took and took and took until they had a big pile of waste. And when they couldn't take the pure gold, they began to dilute it with nickel and with mercury, mostly mercury. They boiled it down so they can take out the gold and left the mercury. And so if you travel through a town called Deadwood Lead and you're taking the South Road out back to Rapid City, you'll see that black soot. You may think it's a natural formation along that creek, but it's the waste from that mine, and it's full of mercury, and it's full of the waste that they left behind from that. And you know, and they're seeing, you see the after effects of that down here. As you travel towards the Black Hills in South Dakota, you're going to travel back in time. You know, down not even far east of here is the Badlands, which was deposits that were eroded from the volcanic ash during, you know, that 6.5 million years to 700 million years or whatever. It just blew and eroded. And in our stories, you know, it talks about the bear and the, you know, the different creation stories on how the Badlands were formed and how Bear Butte was formed. And that's, you know, that's another time, another good story time that, you know, can be shared. But all of these coincide with each of these have a constellation that when the sun passes through, that our people have different activities and different places to be at a certain time of the year. So when we correspond the star patterns, there's those 3 Unchis again in Orion's belt, and Diomni, you know, the Pleiades, the circle of stars, which has a connection to one of our sacred sites that are coming up here. And here's the big circle of stars that has a connection to that great racetrack. And then the Chanshasha Ipusie, the winter camp constellation that when we talk about that, it's like making the tobacco during that time. It's the winter story, the winter camp stories. And so this right here will show you, and I should come in and every time I look at it, I say I'm going to edit this or redo this to show that, it's not Harney Peak, it's Blackout Peak now. And there's the story or the constellation that correlates with that. And we're in the winter camps now, which is, the winter solstice was on December 21st, and we're going into the March 21st, where we are going to go to Blackout Peak to welcome back the Thunder Beings and take care of that responsibility and learn those teachings before we go ultimately, so we're guided right. And in here, you have Peshwa, which is where Falling Star, the story that correlates with Star Boy, and, and where when you go to this site in the Black Hills, you can see the lichen, and I'm not sure if people know what lichen is. It takes thousands and thousands of years to form. So this area, we only visit it during that time to, for that prayer. But that the energy there is so powerful, and it's so, you connect yourself and you ground yourself with that area. And it's usually a time that takes place, after the Blackout Peak visit. And then you have the Mato Tipila, and here it's labeled as Devil's Tower with the story of the 7 little sisters or the 7 little girls. And sometimes they're known. There's other stories or legends that are correlated, like the brothers, the girl with her brothers. And so you have all these different teachings that different Tioshbais. When I'm talking about Tioshbais, I'm talking about like extended families or where you come from, where you carry that on. And so in the Black Hills, each of our sacred sites have a correlation to the stars. And when we follow those in line, throughout the year, if you go to this certain constellation, imagine there were no roads, no fences, no human impacts on the lands. Our Pte Oyate, or our Buffalo Nation, would be right there. We're known as hunters and gatherers, or they would call us nomads, but we weren't. We were, we're people from the Buffalo Nation, and we have that connection to the star world, and they know that. So if there were no fences, there were no roads, they can go where they want to go. They'll be at these different places throughout the year, and that, our people will be in connection with that. The other things that the Star Nation has connection to is our trees and our water, and everything in that. Whenever you look at the cottonwood tree, and it's declared the state tree of Wyoming, and there's 5 different subspecies, and the scientific name for cottonwood tree is Populus deltoides. And we have the native cottonwood tree here. And, the male cottonwood is used for one of our ceremonies as Lakota people. But when you break that, like say this is a cottonwood stem, when you take that little branch off, when you open it, you can see that star. And whenever you open up the leaf of that tree, you can see the water in there. And when you look at the Black Hills in here, this is a heart. This is like, it's in a shape. When you look at a satellite vision of the Pahasapa, and the water that runs through, it'll flow on ground. Now we have lakes and Pactola, Sheridan Lake. These are man-made lakes. There is no natural lakes in the Black Hills. They're man-made for recreation and for power or energy, like electricity and different things like that. But there is a big formation that is underneath the Madison Formation, where all of the water is throughout that area. And it comes out, and it's on the headwaters of this North American continent. Whenever you look at the Earth, and some of you guys might know it as the continental divide. Right in the middle, there's a big divide which divides up the watersheds from the Turtle Mountain. Whatever's on the eastern side of the watershed is going to flow into the Gulf of Mexico. Whatever's on the west side is going to flow into the Pacific Ocean. And this is where it starts right here. These are the headwaters of the Gulf of Mexico, of the Great Mississippi River. So our medicines that are found there and everything that comes out of there has that really strong connection to Unchimakan, to the Star Nation. And I always think, that's why it's, the water's pure, and the creeks that flow through there. And that's, according to that racetrack story, whenever we won that race as the Tunumpa, the Hunumpa, the two-legged, that we advocate for Mother Earth, and to keep her safe, to keep her from being mined. There's still threats of gold mining in the Black Hills. So in all of these constellations that have the connection to the Black Hills, they've been here before, the Earth. Whenever we talk about the creation of our creation stories, Ea was here first in the darkness, and then, all of the Tioshpai in that are the creation, his creations, the creator's creations came out from there. This Milky Way was always there, and it's the way back to the Star Nation. And when our time is done as humans, that's the road we go back, and we want to do a good job while we're here. And it all has to do with resilience too, because sometimes when we don't finish our life, then we fall back down and we have to go again. And especially in this time, especially in this time where we really need resilience, and we need to hold on to ourselves and understand that connection with the Earth as well as with the Star Nation. The connection with this is also, the Milky Way. If you look at the cottonwood tree, that crutch in the top of the cottonwood tree, how it has that way. If you look at this, like right now, if you go outside right now and you're in the Northern Hemisphere, you look up at this clear sky, which is beautiful, you'll see the Milky Way, and you'll see that cottonwood tree, and you can imagine, all of our ancestors that are up there and that are giving us strength. As humans, we're humans now. So again, here's that same, that image that I showed before that has that connection to the Lakota astronomy. And so everybody, get up, move your arms around, get some water if you have to, walk around. Drink some water. And I like this, it has the time in the ceremony of, according to Lakota star knowledge, migration based on the stars. Whenever like the dried willow constellation happens, where the people are at during the winter time, the Seven Little Girls constellation, where it's correlated with Blackout Peak during the Welcome Back to Thunder Beings. The racetrack story, the sacred hoop, and Diomedy, where Peshla is welcoming back life, giving thanks. It's a big Thanksgiving, praying for all of the organisms, the species and populations on the earth. And Bear's Lodge, or Matotipila, Matotipila during the summer solstice. And somehow, some way, I never realized it, but we always make it there during that time, and it's always just really a good time. It just works out like that, and I think that's just the way it's supposed to be. And I've tried to go to Blackout Peak during different times of the year, and it just never works. And I just always believe that that's because it wasn't the time of the year to be there. But when we learn about these sites and the connection to our people. And we go there in a good way and, in a respectful way. Our entire connection as a people gets stronger. A lot of times, as communities in our indigenous lands all across, Turtle Island, across North America, we have the same struggles. We deal with, hard times, the social problems are similar. And when we can put that materialistic, stresses that make life hard, where we want to envy, or we want to envy somebody who might have this, or doing this with materialistic things, it makes life hard. When we put our culture and our stresses in a different place, good stresses, things to look forward to as Lakota people, it seems like your life is more balanced and you're not so stressed, and things that would normally bother you, you're just like, okay. And so I encourage young people, people of all ages, in reconnecting with your cultural calendars. And something that we're working on in Lakota country, with the women's initiative, equity initiative, movement, with grassroots organizations, with Chapashi or Tui Arlena, Belyun at the Oglala Lakota Justice System, and Thunder Valley with Mashke Tatewi and Tatewi Means, and Tui Helene, Iron Cloud. And this women's equity movement is doing this, and it's really powerful to be a part of that, and to know that there's other organizations like Tui Lynette here that is leading this way. And this week is just really a powerful week for this month for Indigenous women, and uplifting. It's a time to uplift each other, and to uplift our younger generation, our young women who are finding their identity right now, and sometimes have to be stronger than what we had to face whenever we were young people like that, trying to find your identity and trying to find your strength in the world. And so learning about the stars and connecting it with our culture, and knowing where you're supposed to be at a certain time of the year, helping people, helping our community members in that, it's something that will really, give strength. And so I really hope that everybody, got something good out of this. And I'm really humbled and thankful to be able to share with you all. And I hope I didn't go too fast.
That was a lot of information, a lot in the short amount of time that we had. And just want to say wopila to you for all of that knowledge that you shared. And it's really important information. And what you shared at the end, I think it's really important as well. We need to uplift each other. And that's what I love about our Yellowbird storytelling, is because we could bring our relatives from the different nations. And, I'm Lakota, and on my father's side, I'm also Cheyenne. And there's a lot of so many similarities in, a lot of the teachings and the stories, like you were mentioning the 7 sisters, while the Cheyennes have their story of the 7 brothers. And, the great race story. And, they have a real strong connection to, the Black Hills as well. And, relatives from all over, we hear from them about their sacred sites. And so what you shared about, connecting to our calendars and our sacred sites, that's, that's who we are. We need to do that. We need to do that because, we always say remind, reconnect, reclaim, the 3 R's. And I think, that's so crucial for all of us to do that. regardless of what nation we represent. And so thank you for sharing all that knowledge and wisdom. And, you know, you carry a lot of wisdom, and I can hear it in you that you've been taught by a lot of good people. And then in turn, you're passing that on to the younger generations. And that's, you know, that's the circle of life and the stages of life. That's why, you know, that those age groups, you know, passing that intergenerational knowledge is really important. So thank you, Wopila, for coming on our show today. And I'm excited to, you know, see what else that, you know, you have and the information that you have. And right now, you know, at this time of the year, the stars are really beautiful out there. And every time, you know, we go into the lodge and pray and we come out, it's like you can just see that Milky Way. It's so bright, and the stars seem so much brighter and so much powerful. And that's who we are. You know, we are the Star Nation. And so it's a good reminder tonight. So thank you. And we didn't, there wasn't any questions in the comments. So, you know, you did a good job explaining with all of
Thank
your
you.
slides. So yeah, so thank you so much.
Pilar. Good night.
Yeah. Good night, everybody. We'll see you back next Wednesday. Have a beautiful week.
Dope shot.